A seemingly perfect paradise next to living hell. Turquoise waters besides desperate drug addicts.
You try to stop, but it's very difficult to stop.
In the Seychelles, 1 in 10 adults is addicted to heroin. That makes it the world's most heroin-dependent nation.
I'm scared because I love my children. I don't want my children to take their drugs.
Why are these gorgeous islands such a drug hotspot? In our investigations, we met with members of the Coast Guard, addicts and dealers, and we uncover the Seychelles' dark secret. Meet Gigi. She's 5 months pregnant, expecting a baby girl. Gigi started using heroin when she was a teenager. At first she smoked it, then started injecting it, following her boyfriend's footsteps.
I look at how he used it, and then I used it when he was not here at home. And then in 1 week I'm starting to feel cold. Feeling cold, my body no good. When I take this again, I feel I'm normal. And then I'm continuing until now.
Today, Gigi injects or smokes the drug 3 times a day. Her addiction is strong. Stopping, impossible.
I try to 1 day, 2 days to don't smoke, but I can't. It's too painful.
Does she worry about her unborn child?
Of course I'm scared. You see your little baby getting pain too. You have a hard heart, you know.
And money is tight.
I have to sell myself for me to get money. Everybody are looking at you. Everybody pointing on you. Bad, bad, bad. You are a criminal. You like a piece of garbage, a piece of shit. The family to put you down. Sometimes no friend, no family, nothing. On yourself.
We'll return to Gigi in a bit. But first, let's try to understand just how big the Seychelles drug problem is. As mentioned, nearly every 10th person of the working population is addicted, according to a government survey.
10% is a very high number. It's a number that's much higher than in the United States.
This is Wanda Feller-Brown. She's done extensive research on drug trafficking.
It's a very, very significant situation with massive consequences for not just the quality of individuals, but, for example, the health of a workforce.
The effect of heroin is severe. Users get an immediate sense of euphoria, followed by a deep slump, making the drug highly addictive, and one of the deadliest in the world due to its high potential for overdose. We're back with Gigi and her friend, whom we'll call Bobo. He wanted to stay anonymous to protect his identity. You will soon find out why. The two take heroin together regularly. He calls her his doctor, because without her, he cannot inject anymore. He has used all the veins reachable to him. They are now too scarred to be used.
What are you looking for?
The vein. Because you have to put it in the vein.
Heavy withdrawal symptoms like headache, muscle pain and nausea are only stopped by a new shot.
I'm in now. I can do all my work, everything now.
After the injection, he smokes heroin as well.
You have to get the smoke.
Why is use so widespread? One reason, heroin is cheap. Over the last 2 decades, the price of an average dose dropped from around $35 to just $7, we're told, making the drug affordable. Due in part to the country's tourist industry, the average income is much higher here than in neighboring East Africa.
That makes it all the more lucrative and interesting for drug trafficking groups, both because tourists can purchase drugs there or become couriers.
Many of the around 300,000 yearly tourists have no idea this is happening.
I didn't notice anything as such because the people are here very friendly, and I don't think so they are into this bad habits.
I've seen nothing. Everything's great.
But slowly, things are starting to change.
If you were in the outskirts of Victoria, you could see one or two people who were clearly under the influence of drugs.
You can tell drug use is an issue here. In the evening, people often ask you if you want to buy something.
Should the drug problem become even more noticeable for tourists, it would be even more devastating for the local population. The tourist industry is one of the country's main sources of income. Almost half of its GDP relies on tourism. But there are those committed to fighting back. Behind these gates lies the base of the Seychelles Coast Guard. Major Hans Radegond has agreed to meet us. He tells us why it's so difficult to stop drugs from entering the country.
Officers on parade, to the right, for out!
Basically, you get to see our assets and what we have to deal with drug trafficking in general that happens out at sea.
I feel like this is a big part of the problem, right? Because, I mean, islands, so many coastlines.
Yeah, of course, but we have to deal with it. We can't hide the problems. Yeah, it needs to be out in the open so everyone can know that the entry points are many, our forces are small, but we do work a lot. To provide certain security to the people.
A big challenge of his team, patrolling the borders of a country which includes 115 islands.
And we'll have islands over here as well, and here, which are quite far. Normally from here to this island here, it will take around 18 hours.
Let's look at this in detail. Why has this tiny nation become a drug trade hotspot? The many islands that comprise the Seychelles lie dispersed in the Indian Ocean. And they are situated along one of the world's most well-known drug trafficking routes. But how exactly? The answer lies in a critical link between major opium-producing regions and global markets. The Golden Crescent, spanning parts of Iran, Afghanistan and Pakistan, is one of the world's largest heroin-producing areas. Opium poppies are grown here. The sap of the plant is then used to make heroin. The political conditions here create the perfect environment for the production and export of opiates. Political instability, poverty, and partly a lack of strong governance. From the Golden Crescent, the traffickers embark on their journey. Shipping routes traverse the Indian Ocean, with the Seychelles acting as a transshipment point. They then go further to East Africa, some ultimately reaching the lucrative markets of Europe.
The Seychelles does not have drug trafficking under control, and very few islands in fact do. They often need to rely on external assistance to make significant improvements.
The European Union has also deployed its naval forces in the Indian Ocean.
The drugs that we're intercepting, basically they are meant for the European markets. We're stopping that from happening by doing our jobs here in Seychelles.
He says the Coast Guard seized around 2.5 tons of drugs in 2024, a stark increase from the years before. On these boats, they've seized everything from heroin, meth, and hashish, he says. But they catch just a fraction of what is smuggled.
Nowadays, they're shifting the modus of operations. They're putting the drugs on the deck. As soon as they spot us, they try to throw it overboard so that we won't catch them with the drugs.
While they have 4 surveillance boats, only 1 is actually out patrolling. The rest stays at the harbor. The reason is simple, they say: not enough manpower.
I 1,000. Just give him the money, man.
We meet up with Bobo again. He seems to be deeply connected with the country's drug trafficking scene, which is why he didn't want to give us his identity when we first met him. Bobo tells us he's been dealing with drugs in the Seychelles for years. His customer base has grown, he says, and they aren't just locals.
The clients? A lot of clients. Girls, men, foreigners, people who came to race, name it.
The Seychelles are drowning in drugs. Does he think he's part of the problem?
I'm conscious that I'm affecting a lot of family too. I know that. But it's like that. Life. I survive. I don't have too much education. What can I do?
And he makes another claim. For every trafficker caught, many go unnoticed. And he suspects that even those drugs that are intercepted are not necessarily off the Seychelles drug market.
There's a lot of drugs with the state. What do you think they will do with it? They will burn it? Long time they don't burn. When you think it's burned, they burn powder. A lot of corruption. Now there are drugs we're selling down now. It's the stuff on the boat that get catch.
While we can't verify his accusations, we've heard similar allegations of corruption within law enforcement multiple times here.
Corruption is a very large problem in the Seychelles. So it's not just the cops, it's also the judicial system that is a vulnerable element to corruption and to criminal infiltration.
The drug problem doesn't seem under control, not even in the country's main prison. Reportedly, drugs are smuggled into it. Recently, inmates started a riot that killed 2 people. The alleged reason? One inmate linked to drug trafficking into the prison was put into isolation, stopping the flow of drugs to the other inmates. We asked the Ministry of Interior Affairs and the police commissioner to comment on the allegations of corruption in their ranks, but don't receive any response. Using heroin is heavily stigmatized in the Seychelles. Many citizens see addicts as criminals, not people in need of support. Someone who helps those affected by the epidemic is Kenneth, a social worker.
Some maybe don't understand them, but I understand them fully, you know, because I've wear their shoes.
Today, he's helping at a needle exchange program financed by the government. Users who inject heroin come here for fresh needles. Using old or shared ones could mean transmitting hepatitis or HIV. People can die very quickly from either disease and heroin itself.
I have 2 very close cousins that has passed from substance abuse, so this really gives me the motivation.
He takes us straight to where heroin is used most, in the capital Victoria's ghettos. We have to film discreetly because the atmosphere is tense.
So we will go up there. When someone is using substances, it's not only him that it's being affected, it's their family and also the society.
He drives from one ghetto to the next. Many addicts don't make it to the social center, so Kenneth needs to go see them. He knows slipping into addiction is particularly easy here because the drug is everywhere, and people like prospects for a better life.
I never judge them. My only goal and wish is to help them.
One person Kenneth was able to help is 23-year-old Romeo.
Everything's okay right now. Maybe you must set goals also, what you want to do in terms of career and keep yourself busy, physically, mentally.
Romeo doesn't use heroin anymore, but methadone, distributed by another bus.
And it's been about 8 months right now. I haven't smoked on heroin. It's really helpful for me.
But reintegrating into society isn't easy.
There's a lot of stigma on it. Like, if you're looking for a job and they know that you're on the program of methadone, it's going to be really hard for you to get a job.
The government finances the program, but critics say providing methadone is not enough. They want a more holistic approach.
The people on substances, they don't just need the methadone, or they also need the psychological support. So I think there should be more people trained in the field of addiction.
We confront government officials with this. Marie-Josette is the Director General of the Health Ministry's Division for Substance Abuse.
If you're asking me if our resources are enough to cater for the service, I would say no. Our biggest challenge is human capacity, the trained personnel, to work with those people. It's not only of being trained or specialized, lack of them.
Does not having a single residential rehab center for the estimated 5,000 to 6,000 addicts have consequences?
Yes, of course, it has an impact. If we could at least have some people get into the rehabilitation and then get out clean and able to go out in the society, that would be a very much helping. But yes, we have a holistic hospital which is in the plan. Hopefully it will start next year.
We found out the drug crisis in the Seychelles is driven by many factors: a lack of facilities and funds, corruption, and proximity to lucrative international trafficking routes. An end is nowhere in sight, but Kenneth will continue to support the addicts.
I hope for my island to be one day a drug-free island.
Gigi's wish?
I can stop with the heroin. I'm back to the girl I used to be. For me to make my children grow in a better life. For better life for everybody in Seychelles.